Hello, darlings. Maria West here with this is episode, I think it's 323. And this is our 11th installment of my video series, Conversations with Men. And I have with me my colleague and good friend, Brandon Spencer, whose bio is hellified. Nobody yet somebody. Please, let's give him a warm welcome. Welcome, Brandon. How are you?
I am doing well, Maria. How are you doing today?
I'm
Thank you for
very
having me
good.
on.
I'm very good considering my crash, but we're not going to talk about that. Today,
Yes.
it's all about you. So let's go there. Let's go there like right away. Let's talk about men and emotions because supposedly, according to poop culture, men have no emotions. They don't feel, and they
Right.
don't feel because they're inherently psychopathic. And if they
Yeah.
do feel, then they're like these whiny soy boys that have no emotional control and are just willy-nilly all over the place. So I know that you are here to debunk a lot of that and talk about your own journey with the shadow work.
Yes. And to get a better understanding of where I'm coming from, of course, you have to revert back or kind of get an understanding from my childhood. And how lucky for me, I came from a two-parent, home. My dad was there and my mom was there. And, me being a brown-skinned male, hell, I was actually fortunate. We had a very good material, how materialistic life. How we was very sort of like middle class and stuff like that. But it was just more on the material, physical aspects, and it was more lacking on the emotional aspects. Because me myself, I was always big and I was always in the sports. I was very good at sports, football, baseball, and basketball. And
Nice.
as like in society, when you were playing those sports, especially as a young boy, as a young male, those emotions are pretty much weeded out. They're always suppressed. How you were told not to really experience it, never really to show that. And that's really what ended up, happening to me is because I was always like the leader of the team. I never really experienced much of the emotional side. Like even as a child, even as
Wow.
a baby, yeah, I never really experienced and like showed my emotions as a form of expression, as a form of, her reaction.
Yeah.
And and when you think about it, when you're playing sports, sports is supposed to be a good time for you to, show those expressions and show those healthy emotions. But for some reason, in me, in my programming and in my psyche, it just wasn't there. So when I started, my journey and I started to become, conscious of this, because when you are doing the shadow work, then you start to realize things hell about yourself that that may make you feel very uncomfortable. The emotional aspect was something that I was always, pretty much understood was lacking in myself.
Yeah.
And I honestly had to question if I had suffered from, like secondary psychopathy.
Really?
Which that's not, yes, that's really not a like a question most people ask themselves, but I really wanted to get to, why is it that I wasn't really experiencing or displaying these healthy emotions. And of course, I came to the conclusion that I wasn't a secondary, health psychopath. Um,
Well, and if you need
but
to ask,
yeah,
if you need to ask the question, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
pretty certain you're not.
yeah. And then, I would always try to, try to revert to certain stages within my life, certain thoughts and stuff like that. And it hell occurred to me because I grew up, in an all Black family. The emotions pretty much in the whole Black community are not necessarily that's brought up to the table. Especially being a young Black male. Those hell emotions are always either suppressed or hell ignored, or you don't know how to deal with that. And that's
Yeah,
something that I also had encountered too, because we was, a Black family. Of course, the conditioning came along with that, and the beliefs and the structures and the world views, which sadly a lot of people still buy into now. Um, hell, I bought into all hell that stuff. Hell, when I would take pictures, hell, I would never smile. I was always so serious. I never really understood the concept of play. I
Mm-hmm.
never really understood the importance of that creativity and
Oh,
all that kind
wow.
of, yeah, all that kind of kind of pushed me down this kind of emptiness hell inside of me, because to me, having that play, having that creativity, having that curiosity does kind of flow into that emotional, aspect. And that's something that I really, really, struggle with. And it's taken me almost 10 years, and it's still a struggle now. So
Wow. So as a young person, you did have this awareness that um that there was something more going on with you emotionally, or were you just like not even clued in?
I wasn't even clued in until
Okay.
about my mid 20s. Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
It was about my mid 20s, when I started to, through synchronicity, through pattern recognition, as I started to take in knowledge, then I started to like, hey, started to look at myself, and then I'm like, oh, there is just something right here, because
Right.
I really did look at emotions as a form of weakness. I really did.
Okay.
And because it was really just, me not allowing myself to feel vulnerable, help me not allowing myself to build connections, help me not allow myself to express and be open,
Mm-hmm.
then that was, some other reasons why. But yeah, it was really around my mid 20s, because throughout, how my how younger life, teenage years, hell, I was just completely, it was more of a nihilistic, perspective.
Okay. Okay. Even though you were kind of pushed into leadership roles, do you still feel
Yes.
like that was still nihilistic?
Yes, because a lot of people think that leaders are just supposed to be, like kind of psychopathic and controlling, when in actuality, that's not what makes a good leader.
Yeah,
A good
that's
leader
true.
can have, like the kind of logical skills, but they also have to be able to put themselves in other people's shoes and have that care and stuff too. And that's something
Right.
that I started to learn how later on, a hell of life, that it's not just so much of the controlling aspect, is you have to be able to care and have that heart-based hell intelligence to be a true leader,
Right.
because
Right.
those leaders who just want to control and tell other people what to do based on hell authority, they usually don't last long. So
Yeah.
you got to have both of those components, and that's what I came to learn, as far as to be a true good leader and not a
Wow.
fake leader.
That's impressive that you had that sort of stirring inside that, there's something off here,
Yeah.
and to go deep.
Yes. And the reason for that is because when I got to like my mid 20s, I was always a loner, but just because you are a loner doesn't mean that you are truly spending time with yourself.
That's true.
Once I got to, have my mid 20s, then that's when I started to really, you know, spend time hell with myself, engage in conversation, figure out my learning techniques, figure out, hell what I was good at, figure out hell what turned me on, figured out hell what I like.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Like figure out if this is really me, or figure out if these are, constructed
Mhm.
ideas of mind control that were put there by something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. What were your inspirations? I mean, did you go into therapy? Did you have a coach, or were you just reading and just really doing the internal dialogue contemplations?
My inspiration was, I intuitively knew that there was some form of deeper knowledge out there, because I like floated in the conspiracy realm for like 2 years, and it was something inside of me that just knew that there was some form of hell deeper knowledge.
Wow.
Like how natural law, hell occult knowledge. It was something in my blood. I had a thirst, just an internal knowing.
Yeah.
Then once I got a little piece of that, I had an insatiable appetite, to where, I was just so engaged in the knowledge aspect of it, to where I would have swum across the ocean. I would have, like gone through any kind of initiation ritual to get it, That's how bad that I had wanted it,
Wow.
because
Wow.
it was on, yeah, it was on like something inside of me had become unlocked, to
Yeah.
where that thirst, that fire inside of me had finally been lit, and there was nothing that was going to stop me
Yeah.
from, true education, because I had always considered myself to be kind of, dumbed down and kind of ignorant. So once I had got a taste of that, then I was like, oh, like nothing was going to stop me. And that's pretty much how I've always been.
I love that. So in other words, would you say that pop culture, that you were impervious to pop culture, or did you find yourself, because I know a lot of the times I would be intrigued by it, but there was something inside that was telling me, I'm not falling for it. Don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. How did you navigate, the sort of influences of pop culture, and also being in the sports realm? There's so much egoic pressure to
Yeah.
like show up in certain ways. How did you overcome those?
the the funny thing is, hell, is with the pop culture, in the Black community, you had the whole sagging of the pants. And this was like what, like late 90s, 2000s. And yeah, I fell for that garbage too. Like I honestly fell for it. But it was it was when I went to college. I had a kind of real world hell awakening, because I went to an all Black college. And when I went there, I saw how my growing up was completely different than what theirs was. And I saw how fortunate enough I was, because a lot of them didn't really know their dad, or how they
Wow.
didn't know,
Okay.
have that mom. So I had that kind of real world hell awakening. And it's like, whoa, like there are so much more, kids out there who don't really know their parents. They didn't really have the, the foundation that I had, because my mom had always tried to install, her morality and right and wrong, inside of me. And then too, with the sports, um, the sports thing was something that, because I always had like a kind of fire to me, good for good in sports, but never really good on the emotional aspect. Then because I excelled in sports, I was always looked at, being that leader, because I was always taller and I was always bigger than everybody else. But then too, from a personality perspective, I was always quiet.
Mhm.
I never really was open. I never really initiated a conversation. So once I pretty much stopped playing sports, one day just got tired of it, tired of all the training. You just kind of get wore out, you get burnt out from a physical, health
Oh yeah, it's
perspective. Yeah,
super demanding.
yep. But it's like once I started doing that, then that's when I kind of started my journey hell within myself. So it was almost kind of like this hell, I don't want to say like simultaneous flow, but it was like this final flow of fluidity, because I spent my whole life, playing sports, and then kind of being this more logical person. Then it was some kind of divine spark that just sent me, on my path. And
Yeah.
through pattern recognition, like just constantly being held aware that there is a pattern that I
Yeah.
recognize myself
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and wanted to change that pattern.
Wow. That is really, really powerful. That's so powerful. Was that easy for you to like really face? Or I mean, you just mentioned that being in the flow. So when I hear flow, I'm envisioning you just kind of flowing from this realization to this pattern recognition and being able to just kind of move with it? Or did you feel like you were being sort of bombarded by some like harsh realities where you're like, oh shit, what do I do with this? How did that transpire for you?
When I had made this switch, when I had jumped into this flow, I kind of went at it from a extremist standpoint,
Okay.
to the point to where, because I had intuitively knew that there was, like this knowledge out there, and I wanted it, like it was something that I had to do,
Yeah.
like it was something that I just, had to do. So I was willing to make any sacrifices to to continue down that path. So what I started doing is started purging, like I literally shifted my whole health environment to a more environment of thriving, getting rid of
Yeah.
individuals, within my life, who wasn't really on their path, or, who
Hmm.
wasn't really, good or moral. Getting rid of information too, I stopped going to certain, websites as far as health conspiracies, and just putting out fear. I wanted to pretty much pull myself in an environment to really empower myself.
Yeah.
Because as I was doing this, I was also starting to learn about, health psychology, learning hell about the mind and stuff too. So, you know, as I'm taking in this knowledge, I'm like, okay, how can I use this knowledge to empower myself, to get to held this more full being that
Yeah.
I, want to be. And that's what I started to do. And that's why I call it held the great purge. Is I literally had to shift my environment. And I say flow, it was, and it was kind of held extreme because I started to, educate myself. I stopped going out held in public. It was more of the hermit,
Hmm.
in a sense.
Yes.
and
Yay,
and that's how I was
Hermit.
able yep, and that's how I was able to start spending more time alone with myself, to start to hear that inner voice. And then two, I think also how while I was doing that, that inner child voice was always there, because that was that vulnerability. And how, like I say, it's because I started to hear it. It was like, over time, it was always in the back of my mind. And that was the
Wow.
biggest thing that I was struggling with, was that emotional aspect.
Yeah. The dark night of the soul, and you don't even know what the F is going on. I
Yep.
hear you. And the whole purge that you have to do, where you've got to let go of these people that are like either bringing you down or not raising you up. Getting rid of drama, getting rid of, just the fucked up habits that we just kind of default to, and we don't even realize that we're even doing it. So
Yep.
I can imagine it probably just turned your world upside down. And
Yeah.
thank God for the hermit.
Yeah. And then another realization that I had to be honest, with myself, is in my earlier days, I was smoking a lot of weed, like just smoking blunts. Then I had to be honest with myself, we like to think that when we are high, we are more in tune with our health emotions. And that may be true, in and of a sense. But what I was doing is it's almost like I was creating some form of a proxy feeling, thinking
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
hell, I can only feel by,
Yes.
hell, being high, to the point to where I was starting to, hell, abuse, hell, marijuana, and
Yeah.
not really use it,
Yeah.
for more
It
creative.
becomes a crutch to
Yep.
reach some sort of point, when the whole point is to be there on your own.
Right. Yes. Yep. Yep. Stop having to rely on some form of drug or external source. You should be working to get to that
Yeah.
power,
Yeah.
just within yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I had to make that, realization, because from the time, that I turned away, 18 to my mid 20s, I was smoking heavily, and it was in that realization too, that it's like, hey man, I'm really only doing more harm to myself by constantly health suppressing and ignoring these real health emotions, rather
Yeah.
than just dealing with them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Wow. What was your first sort of real come to face with all those suppressed emotions? What was that like?
Well, the experience, which what led me to that, is it was on one Christmas. I can't remember. It was some Christmas after 2016, but hell, I was celebrating at a friend's house, and I don't really, like, get into holidays and stuff like that, but my friend, hell, I was the best man at his wedding. His family and stuff was having Christmas, and he brought his son over there. So, I was on picture duty. So I'm watching all of them take pictures. It's a wonderful hell experience. It's laughter, joy. You got the grandfather, hell the father, and hell the son. But me,
Beautiful.
there was totally emptiness inside of me.
Aw.
Yeah, like no feelings hell going on hell whatsoever. But I became conscious of it, that it was going on within me, compared to, just letting that knowledge flow through very
Oh,
unconsciously.
wow.
And that was right then and there when I was like, I've got to do something, hell about this. Because when you have kids involved, hell, kids usually, hell will have their energy, and you will feel their energy, energy too. But because I don't have kids and stuff like that, it was more of that darkness, hell, that loneliness, and how can I relate to them if I don't have, kids myself?
Yeah.
So yes, that was one of the biggest things, and it was just total darkness, total
Wow.
emptiness. If you ever, felt that being alone type feeling, that's what I was experiencing for
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
2 hours in this loving environment of laughter, playful family,
Wow.
protection, joy.
That is an intense, contrasting experience to hold that space, hold that awareness, have these experiences, witness what was going on, and also keep track of what was happening for you internally. That, my friend, is being in the center screen, your awakened state, watching what's going on in the outer screen of the matrix reality, and being aware of your experience internally and also bodily.
Yeah.
That is like that is a very powerful moment to moment to moment to moment awakening. Wow.
Yeah. It was extremely eye-opening, for me, because it's like I said earlier, it's one thing to not be conscious, hell about that. But once I felt that, and consciously, then I was like, okay, I've got to I've got to start doing some things to kind of tap into that feminine, energy, tap into that creative, energy. And when I started my journey, because I was kind of more, her left brain, and I was reading books, I did the best that I could to kind of not fall victim, to that just kind of left brain
Yeah.
controlling.
Yeah.
Because, you know, hell, my ego did kind of want to kind of go down that left hand path. And I'll be honest with that. Hell, my ego wanted to go down that path, but I made sure to kind of stay true to myself. And I was always trying, like trying to do some form of hell meditation or balance, or
Mhm.
like just little small things just to make sure. Because hell, I was spending 10, 12 hours a day just educating myself. I'm not saying that's the healthiest way, but like I say, I had an urge, I had a
Yeah,
fire,
it was
hell.
you were drawn,
Yeah.
you were being inspired, and this fire was burning internally constantly.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
intense. Holy moly.
Yeah. And I've talked to people who have felt that same feeling. And because hell, I wonder, it's like nowadays, hell, I talk about, being willing to do the work, like being willing to make that sacrifice, being, like
Yeah.
being that hermit. A
Yeah.
lot of people still lack that passion. Hell, a lot of people still lack that fire. A lot of people don't want to sit there and sacrifice years and years and years and make, and be willing to break down their structures of belief, be willing to break down their structures of worldview, be willing
Yeah.
to look at their trauma. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't want to do that.
No, they
Hell, they
don't.
just want
They
that
don't want to
overnight.
do it. They want
Yeah.
to hit pause, or they want to, let's just swipe. We're going to swipe. Goodbye.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to let
Yeah.
you do it.
Yeah. But see, that was the most grateful part, because then you can get down to that true authenticity, you know, because the whole time you are doing this, you should be using that trivia method as well, because there's going to be new information that comes in,
Yes.
you're going to be remembering certain certain beliefs, have certain thoughts. So you got to take all that into consideration and
Yeah.
always be willing to be honest with yourself to say, hey, I'm going to make things, I'm going to get things wrong, but you also have to have that compassion for yourself
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And that was one thing which drew me to you, is because when I first reached out to you, you was doing a show with another individual about some fake people in the natural law community.
Oh,
You
oh
know,
yeah.
how the, yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Who've never read the Kabbalion, for fuck's
Yeah,
sake, and just want to spew. I mean, I just like make it stop. It's like, what,
yeah,
you don't think you're outing yourself here? Come on.
yeah. But it was something that you said in the interview, and I'm gonna paraphrase it. You said something to the point where you can never love anyone else and care for anyone else if you don't have that care and love for yourself. But it was when you said that, it resonated with me so much. It like blew me out of my chair. And mind you, I had heard that before, but it was just in that particular time I needed to hear that,
Yeah.
because that was at a time when I was being bombarded with all of those repressed and suppressed
Yeah.
emotions,
Yeah.
the good and the bad.
Yeah.
So it was like, right there, when I heard that, that was that balancing factor for me. And I think I told you this, but that night was the first time I ever recall putting my hand out to the universe and saying, hey, I love myself. Hey, I care for myself. Hey, I respect myself. So it's not also too in developing those healthy emotions, but developing that self-worth, that self-respect, and that
Yes.
self-care.
Yeah.
That's something too that I was lacking in, that self-care.
Yeah. And what's intense when we're dealing with a lot of our shadow stuff, a lot of shadow emotion is it's like, the emotions are, well, when we're talking about frequency and vibration, some are higher, some are lower,
Yep.
but they are frequency, they're vibration, they are emotions. And it's like so many people are either trying to suppress them, repress them, or trying to get the fuck away from them, or trying
Yeah.
to throw them out. And really, the best thing that we can do, especially on the track, the journey to self-love, and really the self-appreciation and up-leveling our self-talk, is to just accept where we are at any given moment, at any given time, what it is that we're feeling, rather
Yeah.
than saying I am to the rage and the anger and the guilt and the shame. To just understand that this is a momentary experience of emotion, of feelings, of sensation, and still being able to say, I am the love that I am, or I am the divine that I am. And there's so much confusion. And this is what I don't like about pop psychology and the psychology, or, the mental health matrix shitstoms, is, the compounding of these emotions, that they're bad, and that because we feel them, we're bad, and the identification that they're bad, therefore we are bad, and you shouldn't have thoughts of wanting to punch somebody out, because that means you're a bad person. No. So moving into that self awareness and that self-acceptance is part of the journey of self-love and self-care. It's having compassion and empathy for those tough, challenging moments that we all have to learn how to navigate, and allow them to pass, like, witnessing clouds up in the sky, and and they pass before us and we experience them.
Yeah. And then too, this comes to mind because I was talking to Derek earlier, and he brought up this scenario, and I'm like, man, I've experienced the same scenario have many times. And how most men have friends who help our men, help dudes. But how if we try to bring up our hell emotions to help another dude, what usually happens is we get shut down. How you know how you're told, you know, oh man, don't be gay, or oh man,
Yeah.
how that's
Like,
how freaking that's soft, how that's weak, instead of having that compassion to open up.
yeah.
And how I've been in that situation, how many times is you get around your boys, you want to help express yourself, how you just want to be yourself, you want to express those hell emotions, and then hell, what happens, you try to, and then you're shut down, hell, you slap in the face, and you just call all kinds of names, hell, you put down,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you feel the shame and the
Yeah.
guilt, because it's like, oh darn, hell, you was excited hell about something, and you couldn't show or express that hell excitement to your friends. and
Yeah.
and a lot of males are guilty of doing that, especially in hell
Yeah.
group surround us, because you have to be that tough one, hell, you have to be that dominant, hell, controlling male. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's something hell that I also wanted to bring up too, because I've experienced that, how many times, and I'm sure how many more men have experienced that as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that is a tough one to navigate. I was reading an article, on it was some blog. I don't remember who wrote it, but I was very struck by it. And unfortunately, my battery on my laptop just, it just went kaput, and I couldn't find it again, which was unfortunate. But the blogger was talking about the alpha male, the beta male, and the sigma male. I don't know if you're
Oh
familiar with
yeah.
it, the sigma male. And I was just like, oh dear.
Yeah, yeah, I said the same thing. Yeah, the
I'm
Sigma
like,
male.
okay, whatever. But the labels, I think, are problematic because
Yeah,
it doesn't allow really for the dynamism, the dynamic nature of who we are as human beings, you know spiritual beings having this human experience in a physical body with
yeah,
these emotions and this mind and this body. So yeah, so I really am enjoying you sharing your journey, because this is a conversation that needs to be told again and again. It needs to be had again and again and again and again, until
yeah,
we can just like really dissolve all of the sort of fragmentation. Because in essence, what you're doing is you're integrating and you're decompartmentalizing all the various parts of the totality of who you are,
yep,
and
yes,
owning all these parts and owning your experience and allowing yourself to be you and allowing others to be different.
yes,
They have a different experience, and it doesn't make them wrong, it just makes them different from you. And I think, just in terms of dealing with the various categories in our lives, our mental states, our belief systems, our hurts, our traumas, our feelings, our emotions, and then being able to like selectively take each one of these categories and apply the Hermetic principles, which is one of the
yeah,
things that I did. It was maddening, and I didn't have any guides to do it. I was just like, reading my version of the Kabbalion and going, oh, okay, well, I have this issue that doesn't exactly work for me. And,
yeah,
and you have to you got to dig into your mind and understand the sort of foibles of your own mind control, and be able to extricate that control, and kind of look at it and go, all right, does that really work for me? Is that really how I think? Do I want to keep
right,
thinking this way?
yeah,
Do I want to keep having these experiences? And it sounds like that's exactly what you were doing the whole time, of really dissecting in hermit mode, giving
yeah,
yourself the time and the space, and really the nurturing, the feminine part of you, and the masculine part of you were holding space for all of these various things that you were working through, to have their own voice, to have their own voice and have their own clarity, and then to be able to like up level it and shift it into something that is much more life affirming for yourself.
Yes. And you brought up, the whole time, hell, this was something that hell, I seem to have had more than everyone else because, hell, my work was different than everyone else. So while people was, waking up, going to their 9 to 5 job, hell, I was waking up and I was, hell, going to work as far as educating myself, taking in this knowledge. So yeah, time has a huge is a huge part of it because
Yes.
you're not gonna see those results from overnight. It takes
No.
years and
Yep.
years. And I think in really understanding that you are learning to have that patience help with yourself.
Yes.
And that was something that I was always bad in, was having patience. But once I started to, go more and more help within myself, then that patience started to be, help develop. How that time help was there. So it was only a matter of time before, how that patience will soon follow. And then too, how having that focus, aspect too, because when you were doing the shadow work, when you were trying to heal your journey, it is a lifelong journey.
Yes.
So you got to have that focus to stay focused because there's so many things, hell, in this shit show that can distract you, how they can pull you,
Oh yeah,
hell,
lots
off
of
your
distractions.
goals, can pull you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
So
what the
yeah,
Matrix
you
wants
got,
to do. It wants to
hmm
distract us from our creativity, and our creativity. What is creativity? It is life force that is being summoned through your entire heart, mind, body, and soul that is creating your reality and animating
yes,
everything that is coming to being. And so, the Matrix doesn't want us to do that. It wants us to imitate other people or be spectators of the celebrities that
yeah,
are, yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah. And then too, when you look at a lot of men as far as what they think real creation is, they just look at it from just a physical, level, hell, as far as just having kids, having a family and providing,
Yeah,
like that's kind of uh, a low conscious, hell, variant to see her creation
yeah,
because there's a spiritual aspect, hell, psychological, hell, emotional aspect too. So and just looking at it so base level, you kind of fall into how the trap of the whole shit show, of the
yeah,
whole, how matrix, and just falling for this physical level. Because something that I've talked about is if you are a real true man, not only, can you be creating a family and stuff like that, but what are you creating within yourself? What are you creating within your health environment? And
yeah,
what are you
yeah,
creating as far as in relationships?
yeah.
Because that
It's
is another component.
multifaceted.
Yep. Yeah.
And we have to be able to um gift our attention and our energy to each one of those spaces, those places,
Yes.
those categories. It's very important. It's not just this one thing or these role playing things that the Matrix likes to trap a lot of people in.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about higher order relationships here, what I call the fourth level, relationship level of the heart-based new humanity. And this is where this is beyond roles. This is about our
Yep.
masculine and feminine, regardless of whether we're a man or a woman, intersecting, integrating, dancing with one another, and having a clear vision about what it is that you are doing with your life. And there it is right there. And
Yeah.
everything is based on truth, uh, first and foremost, and to do everything for that implementation of truth and living it. And it
Yes.
does require sacrifices, as you said. You can't keep on doing dumb shit stuff and harming yourself and harming other people, living this morally relativistic life. It's just not, it's not in alignment.
Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. Moral relativism. That's
Yeah,
one of
it's
the,
chaos.
the
You're creating
ideologies.
chaos.
Yes, yep. You can justify anything. You can justify any form of behavior. You can justify any form of action. But you brought up roles, and it's funny because I umpire and I've traveled all across the United States. So I've gotten to work many tournaments, many World Series, many nationals. But the one thing that I became hell aware of is whenever I would go do this big tournament, it will always be this umpire just bragging about, hell, their titles and their
Yeah. I
hell
used to be a
accomplishments.
baseball wife. Okay.
Yeah,
So, yes,
just
husband
bragging,
number
just straight
two.
ego. Yeah. Like, like people take these UIC roles, umpire, in charge, and they literally think that they are some deity or God. And hell, what I noticed is most of the ones who are doing hell the bragging were always the first ones that go out on the field and they fuck up a call and they get you in a whole bunch of trouble. So I was starting to learn, like early on that man, people really identify, hell with these roles because I never really, you know,
Yeah. Did I
genes that
lose you?
really.
Oh, there you are.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, yeah. I said, like I say, my connection is going in and out because of this storm. Hell, could you hear what I said?
No, repeat.
Okay. Yeah. So I learned earlier on by doing these big time umpiring, hell events that people would literally attach their ego onto these roles. And then whatever hell labels or associations that came along with these roles, people actually embody and identify
Wow.
as if like these roles were pretty much all of who they are,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
full totality of being.
Yeah.
So that right there was starting to hell alert to me like, hey man, people are really identify
Yeah.
being a umpire. And
Yeah.
it was just it it turned me off in a sense, but then too it brought me back down to earth because okay, I use it as a form of apathetic inquiry. Here's how I'm not going to act.
Yes.
Like I am not going to be the umpire who is bragging, has attached my ego
Yeah.
along to this umpiring job. So I always use that as a role to understand how I
That's
should
so
not act
good.
and how I should not, behave.
You need to be teaching a course like this to to the kids. I'm serious, because this is so, and it's so relatable in its application, and having
Yeah,
been a baseball wife, I just remember that, just
yeah,
all the egoic attachments. I am this. I am my batting average, like I
yeah,
like, yikes almighty. What
yeah,
we're saying I am too, rather than our divinity. So yeah, and that's the trouble with the matrix, is the matrix is all about role playing. If and each role has a prefab script that people are following, and if they
yeah,
can't follow it or they can't live up to it, then it goes south from there, and people started identifying and saying I am a failure, or I am a piece of shit, whatever it is that they're
yeah,
saying I am to. So
yeah.
wow.
And then too, like just being in this umpiring community for almost 20 years. Matter of fact, 'cause by the time I hit 40, it'll be 20 years. But just seeing the effects that parents cause onto their kids
Mm-hmm.
in certain environments. They will embarrass them, will
Yeah.
call them out, you know, shame them, create
Yeah.
forms of guilt, create forms of trauma, literally in front of in front of everyone else.
Yeah.
And the
I've
parent
seen it.
just,
It's
yeah, oh yeah, I've
shocking.
seen it. Yeah, I've seen it multiple times. I like it's to the point now, and it's even worse now because parents think that like hey, that's the cool thing, to embarrass my child, get it on TikTok, he'll get it on the YouTube short and post
Oh
it for
my
everyone else to
God.
see.
Ah!
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
ouch.
Yeah, and not understanding you were causing trauma,
Yeah,
emotional
yeah,
trauma, psychological trauma
yeah,
to your own child, and that child is going to have to live with that. That child is going to have to learn to cope with that, and sadly, more than likely, that child is going to ignore and not know how to handle it and
yeah,
repress that, and
yeah,
then that's going to create further problems in life.
yeah.
I've seen it constantly,
Oh my God.
constantly.
It's child abuse. It really
Yes.
is. And it
Yep.
is a projection of really not just bad parenting, but the parent being a really bad person, that you're going
Yeah.
to project your own unprocessed, unchecked, unchallenged, unquestioned bullshit. And you're going to project that horror onto your child,
Yeah.
and then put it on social media. It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. And I
Horrible.
can relate to those kids, because I played sports. Hey, my dad was always in the stands yelling, screaming, like always in the stands. Matter of fact, I remember one time where he was coaching, and my brother and I was playing on the same basketball team, and he literally showed his ass in front of everybody, and then he embarrassed my brother. And then he looked at me because my brother had went and like sat in the stands, and he looked at me in front of everyone and was like, "If you don't like it, you can take your ass over there and sit with them." And hell, you know what I did? I took my ass over there and I sat with him.
Right on.
But it's just that doing that in front of everyone else
Yeah,
as
yeah,
a kid,
yeah,
as a child,
yeah,
and a lot of parents have no kind of conscious realization
yeah,
of the dangers and the harms
yeah,
of doing that, of
yeah,
that
yeah,
embarrassment, shame, and guilt.
yeah,
Because it really does hurt a child, because you look up to your parents, for guiding, protection, care,
yeah,
love,
yeah,
help, help nurture. But then you see like this kind of two-sided form of them,
yeah,
because they may show a kind of caring aspect, but then they'll jump to the polar a hell extreme if you don't, if you didn't get a hit, or because you didn't shoot the
yeah,
basketball,
yeah,
when your parent wanted to. So you kind of see like this kind of
yeah.
two-faced,
It's
two-sidedness.
they're identifying what it is that you're doing as a reflection on themselves. And because
Yes.
they're not saying I am to their own divinity, and they haven't worked out their stuff, they're using it, and using the tactic of guilt and shame. Guilt and shame are two of the lowest vibrational frequencies of emotion,
Yeah.
feeling, whether real or not or artificial, doesn't matter, because the impact on the human psyche, on the human heart, on our souls is intense. It's very, very, it's very, very harmful. And we live in
Yeah.
a shame-based society. You don't need man-made law. All you need to do is just do this emotional blackmail and spew this guilt and this shame onto your child or another human being, and then you can do more damage that way. And it's horrifying. I know for me, when I witness this stuff and I'm out in public, it really takes all of my energy to not go there. I go there
Yeah.
in other ways, but no, I used to be quite confrontational. I was just getting people's faces and start shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, the problem is society's gotten so bad that even if you did the right thing and
Yeah.
tried to, how lambast, how the
Yeah.
parent,
Yeah.
other ignorant people will attack you
Yeah, they will.
because
They
they'll
will.
say,
It's
"Well, you just
happened.
should have minded your own business."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the problem of a straight, ignorant society,
Yeah.
And to me, that really shows the immorality, because good people would not sit back and just hell, just let that shit continue to happen,
Yeah.
because at some point you would stand up to do the right thing. Hell, you would
Yeah.
use your
Yeah.
voice, go have a conversation, with the parent.
Yeah.
But sadly, because we lowered the bar, our standards are so fucking low, our standards
Yeah,
are,
they are.
are literally so low that that has become the norm. So
Right.
anything
Right.
outside,
That mob will come after
yep.
you. for not
Yep.
minding your own business. But, you know, for
Yeah.
me, when it comes to children, it is my fucking business, people.
Yep.
You know, beware. You've all been, you guys know me. I will go there. So, yeah, and that is an intense thing, because I think at some point, and this is part, I'm sure this has been part of your journey, is to decide, when do you step in? When do you
Yes.
step in? You know, are you like, give
Yes.
shit a pass? When you're witnessing it, when do you step in? And, you know, I know there are safety factors. I mean, I've put myself in harm's way. I've been hit before, you know, because I've tried to either break up something or intervene.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there is no set answer
Yeah.
or strategy for that. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
It's almost like, a good warrior has to pick and choose their battles, because you
Yes.
can't go and just, try to battle everything. You ain't gonna last long, and you're gonna get some consequences, hell,
Yeah.
that you don't want.
Yeah.
But when it does come to children, I think we should be willing to deal with, a certain amount of health consequences, because, you know, that child may have never gotten to experience that emotional, connection. So by you doing the right thing and you stepping up to being that voice for the child, think of what all, inner components and inner feelings that child can
Yes.
start to create, because it's like, hey, someone did step,
Yeah.
come to my
Yeah.
defense. And we know, how in that self-defense role, that can be what helps build, self-confidence. That can be what helps build self-worth. That can be what helps build those inner components that a lot of
Yeah.
kids are
Yes.
lacking.
Yeah.
So it's almost in the sense of you may never know what the true outcome is. I mean, because you can take a punch to the face, but you know what? That kid may have resonated with what you did, and
Yeah.
finally knows what it feels like for someone to be that child's voice, because a lot of parents will take away that voice, from that kid.
Yeah. It's
And
true.
then too, that is creating the experience of love, because like you said earlier, you brought up shame and guilt. We all know what it feels like to harness that negative energy. It creates an imbalance in the how magnetic, how energy
Yeah.
feels
Yeah,
within
it does.
the
It
body.
does.
Yeah. And then
It
other
affects our
people around
heart.
you can feel that. Yes, yes. Yep. And other people can feel that too. So the emotional reaction. So then, therefore, why not transmute that reaction for another, as far as a child? Because you know how it feels to be shame and guilt.
Yeah.
So why
Yeah.
in the hell would you want anyone else, hell, let alone a child, to feel that same shame and guilt?
Yeah. 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 I feel you. I feel you. And so I encourage you, to really start thinking about what kind of program you could offer, because your journey is so relatable, and your journey is you left no stone unturned, my friend, which it requires a lot of courage, a lot of heart, to be able to face, those dark little crispy kernels that we try to hide from, or that we're like going, oh God, that's inside me. Oh shit.
Yeah.
All the stuff we want to like avoid, and just like, I can't look at that. But
Yeah. Yeah. We.
the beauty in looking at it is that you realize, the human condition is spattered with all of the woundology, with all of these. We're not really unique in all the dark bits. And so the more that we can, have these conversations, with ourselves. I mean, I'm still having these conversations with myself, because I'm
Yeah.
still, the evolution, the evolving doesn't stop. What I used to think was correct for me, say like 10 years ago, absolutely not. No, I go there and I'm thinking, what the fuck was I thinking? Man, that was just flawed. It was
Yeah.
flawed, even though at the time when I was coming to that particular conclusion, I thought I had done the great work and I had applied all the principles to get to the conclusion, and it was fine for then. But then guess what? There's another purge that happens, with every up leveling, there's a
Yeah.
purge, and then there's more discoveries, because the universe is gonna like shake it up and go, well,
Yeah.
close but not quite. And then pretty
Yeah.
soon you start materializing, or all these events start happening that get you to question the conclusion that you came upon some time ago, and you realize, oh, you are not that person anymore. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
need to like review and renew and reset the template again. And that's what's happened for me time and time again, and
Yeah.
I do my best to live intentionally and to design, and everything I do, everything I intend to do is because I feel the inspiration to do so. If I'm not inspired, I'm not fucking doing it. What for?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you got to figure out what inspires you. You got to figure out what motivates you. And that's why it always harks back to doing the inner work. We are all going to be different. We're all going to have our own unique health experiences. We're all, have our own, health lives, and we all have our own, health different forms,
Yeah.
health trauma. But the end game goal should, we all should be wanting freedom. We all should be wanting, a better version of ourselves, and we all should be trying to heal ourselves.
Yes.
So there are many ways to go about doing that, but you have to understand, how your experience can be completely different, but other people can relate to it.
Yes.
And then also too, understand you are not alone here. Once I came to that realization, like, hey, it's not just me who have experienced these things, then you can start to, put the more power back into your hands, or, start to play your cards right. But two, I really want people to understand, like, this is not something that should be half-assed. A lot of people think, oh, I'm good, or a lot of people think they've done that shadow work and they think that's the end game goal. But
Yeah.
it's like a onion. You're constantly peeling that layer back. You're
Yeah.
constantly doing
Yeah.
it's literally like a lifelong journey,
Yeah.
because you constantly have to be willing to jump into that unknown darkness. There's always going to be some form of a mystery, something that you don't understand. So are you willing to have that fluidity to be able to jump and make that deep dive?
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people think they have, but they really haven't.
Yeah. And we can't cling. I mean,
Yeah.
that was one of the challenges that I think I kept facing again and again, is clinging to the conclusions, and
Yeah.
and then you get to that point, as I was just talking about, where that conclusion is no longer valid, and to like
Yeah.
let it go and not beat yourself up for having that conclusion, when in that moment way back when it was correct, but it's no longer applicable, because one of the same people that we were 10 years ago, 3 years ago, and to be able to have that fluidity to let go and not be attached to any kind of outcome, not be attached to any conclusion that
Yeah.
is some conclusions are temporal. Some conclusions that I have are like, they're straight up. They're straight up. That's it. They are the bottom line. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of our process, is to be able to evolve and let go of things that we've outgrown without beating ourselves up about it. And that's that acceptance, that self-love, self-acceptance that,
Yes.
yeah, I'm a different person now. I don't have that same view, or
Yeah.
that my understanding of the truth has deepened.
Right. Yes. Yep.
And so
More
this
knowledge and
surface
information
shit,
is
I
coming
get
in.
to let
Yep.
go of it.
Yes. Yeah. Totally understand. And you brought up clinging. A lot of people get stuck on one person. A lot of people get stuck in that cult of personality.
Yeah.
A lot of people will get that form of stagnation. Um, the problem with that is, if you just get stuck on one person, then you start to identify, with that person. You start to pretty much take on their identity. And I've seen that,
Yeah, I
with
have
people,
too. It's
even in the
disturbing.
natural law community. Yeah, yeah. It's like, you are not this individual. You've got to be patient with yourself, develop your own flavor, develop your own style.
Yeah.
And you do that by going within yourself. You do that by becoming a hermit, by taking in this knowledge and having that willpower and being ready to sacrifice. And another thing that I wanted to bring up, because you talked about in that video about fake people in the natural law community. One thing that you also had brought up that resonated with me is one of the things that I would always get so focused on was content, presentation, and then kind of not taking time out, for yourself, have the
Yeah.
self-love,
Yeah.
have the self-worth. And I was very guilty of that, because I'm, one of those people where if I was doing a presentation, I would stay in the chair for 6, 10 hours trying to get something done. I want to get this done, yada, 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 mind, intellect starts going, but
Yeah.
you are so stuck in that you are literally forgetting about, your responsibilities and yourself, have self-care,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
taking time out for that self-care is crucial. It may only be 5 minutes, it may be 10 minutes, but just
Yeah.
taking that time out to do things that you love, do things that you enjoy, do
Yeah.
things that they bring you true happiness. So one thing that I did last year was I incorporated some playtime, for myself, because I was
Nice.
always big in the firearms, but started playing some airsoft. It was literally fun. It was painful, but it was fun. It was some great discipline. But yeah, it was just incorporating that fun time, incorporating that play, and trying to strike that balance, because
Yeah.
you can put out all the content and it can be some of the best content, but if you're not taking that time out, like to yourself, you're going to start to create health problems, stress, happiness too. So striking that balance for me was something that was really, really hell important to now. When I go to create a presentation, I'm not worried about how long it's going to take me,
Yeah.
because I know,
Good.
like,
Good.
hey, it can take 2 months because
Yeah.
I'm on my time,
Yeah.
I'm not rushing.
Exactly. You're making time. We're not the
Yeah.
takers of time. We're the makers of time.
Yes. Yeah. So once I came to that realization, it made, creating content a whole lot more fun, because now I don't look at it as a chore so much. Now I look at it as a form of art. And
Yes.
art is supposed to bring you some form of happiness. It's
Beautiful.
supposed to bring you some form of fulfillment. Yes, I know a lot of people just look at it as entertainment too. But when I'm creating these things, this is me, expressing myself. How this is me, how just being myself when I'm doing, my presentations. That's me creating. That's my
Yeah.
form of
Yeah.
art to give
Yeah.
toward everybody else. So to me, it's not like a chore. It's not something that has to be this, this rigorous thing. I've got to constantly keep doing it. Now it's like, hey, if I have some time, I'll create more time and I'll get to it, when I can. I don't have to create a video every week,
Yeah.
making sure that, I'm staying in with this intellectual part. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can create content when I feel like it. I can create content when I'm in the
That's
mood. I
cool.
can, yeah. So
That's cool. That is, and that's part of it. Art is, it's a living, breathing organism I mean,
Yes.
it really is. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to come from inspiration, not coming from a have to.
Yes.
Because the have to is kind of it's like that needs to be examined. Where the fuck's that coming from?
Yeah.
It's like, people, we got to check ourselves, have
Yeah.
to, shoulding, all those kinds of pokey little things that we do to ourselves, and it's considered normal. It's not. It really is not
Yeah.
normal. I don't want to normalize that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then, this was something that Derek and I talked about in Vegas is developing a healthy trickster. I think that's
Yeah.
also important because it comes down to play and, your level of vulnerability and expressing the inner child. Because I was always so serious. I kind of had to let go. I kind of had to, just let that fluidity, because sometimes you can't control everything. Sometimes things are going to be out help, of your control. And sometimes you may have to throw your hands up and ask for help. He'd rather be somebody
That's what
else
I've had to
onto the
try to
universe.
learn how to do. It's
Yeah.
like, fuck, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Help.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's hard for, and it's hard for certain people, and especially I know for myself, adopting the hermit. Okay. Because a lot of people think I'm an extrovert. I'm a freaking hermit. I
Yeah.
have the things that I like to do, and I'm learning how to play. So, having Derek with me for a little bit was like totally fun, because he's like a little trickster. He has
Yeah.
that laugh
He
and
is.
that little impish kind of like playful thing, and
Yeah.
when shit goes wrong, I hear him in the background, monkeys. I mean, it's just
Yeah. Yep.
so
Yep. That monkey.
funny. It's hilarious. And my partner is kind of very similar, a trickster, hilarious, and we're all hermits to a
Yeah.
degree, so I just honoring the time and the space that we make for creativity, for the self-care, the reset, the rejuvenation, the restoration, because we don't have infinite energy. We don't have infinite energy. We need to rest. Part of being inspired is being able to like bring it all down and enjoy sleeping and resting. I mean, I've been like,
Yeah.
since my crash, my ski accident, I've been sleeping 12, 14 hours. It's like, when the fuck do I ever do that? And I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I'm like going, the other day I went to bed at like 6 o'clock in the
Yeah.
evening, and then I woke up like, I don't know, 10 the next morning. I was out, completely out, and it was good. I needed to
Yeah.
be completely out, and
Yeah.
allowing myself to be able to do that without judging myself. Oh, what's wrong with you? And that kind of like little mind gremlin, that's part of my trickster, is that I have these little bits that are like going, ow, and I'm learning to like right back and kind of
Yeah.
get in their faces instead of because I have a tendency to be more critical of myself, and so that critical voice becomes a sort of drill sergeant in terms of creating more content or being more productive or
Yeah.
whatever. And now I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go hit the piano for a while. How about that? That's what I'm going to do. And
Yeah.
to hit the reset button, whether it means sleeping for 12 to 16 hours or playing the piano or, just going out or
Right.
having a beer with Derek.
Yeah. Shout out to Derek. It's
Yeah.
funny because
Hi,
I
darling.
said, yeah, I said when you said his laugh, I'm like, yeah, hell, I can
Yeah,
relate because hell, I was with him for 5 days
I
and
love it.
Derek laughs, man. Yeah, he
Yeah,
laughs,
no,
but
he laughs.
it
He
changes the
laughs.
mood. Yes, yes, because hell, when he was staying with us, hell, when I get done coming from a tournament, it takes me a while to kind of, like give him serious
Oh,
mode to,
sure.
kind of relaxing. But when Derek was in the room, hell, I was like, hey, Derek, man, if I hell appear as though hell, I'm mad, I'm still in umpiring mode, because I'm
Yeah,
still focused.
yeah.
It takes me like a hour or two. But the first thing he did was laugh, and he's like, oh man, it's all good. And and when you have that laughter, it does change the energy. It
Yeah,
changed the
yeah.
energy held within that room.
Lightens it
Yeah.
up.
So yep. So just having him, held around for that laughter, it just always changed the mood.
Yeah.
Because my thing is like, hey man, yeah, I think differently. I'm always scanning, hell looking for threats because I'm always carrying a firearm. But hell in Vegas, it was just so busy, and I'm just, scanning. And Derek just sitting there chilling,
He's just
hanging out. I know, still laughing, still laughing. So you need that energy sometimes, man, because it opens yourself up too.
yeah.
And then two, how when you are laughing, it's almost like that state of love. You're open, you can take in and have more information. You're not as tensed up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something, or that's a part of the trickster, because I've seen it in Derek and I've seen it in other people. That's something that I've been working on, myself, is getting that laughter in, getting that enjoyment,
Yeah.
getting that excitement, and getting in that play, because man, it is so needed. Because like people now are just so serious, that
Yeah.
stressed
Yeah.
out, stressed to the point to where they think they're gonna pop freaking blood vessels.
Yeah,
We have got
exactly.
to bring that back.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. So, one of my things that I'm learning to do is I'm learning to play. I'm learning
Yeah.
to play in a way that is non-competitive and just goofing around. So, I need funny people in my life, and I have lots of funny people in my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
We got
which
to
is a
bring
good
back that
thing.
goofiness. Yeah.
Yes, we need that so much. That
Yeah.
kind of levity to balance. We balance our being with our doing, our doing with our being, and our suffering with play, suffering with pleasure, and
Yeah.
to indulge that, and to like really seek that out and include it. I mean, it's part of my daily life, to enjoy. I I
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of horrifying things from people um on a daily basis, and sometimes I'm like going, okay, that is enough. And I hear you,
Yeah.
because you get into those modes, and then you have to downshift. You got to downshift, and you have to shift the energy. And that's part of, I think, the self-awareness, is to know when it's time to shut it all down and to make the shift, and to change the energy, the law of polarity,
Yes.
and vibration, cause and effect. I mean, just looking at all that and go, okay. And this is part
Yeah.
of our monitoring system, where we monitor our emotional countenance. We monitor the thoughts that we are thinking, and to be able to have the consciousness and the awareness and the ability to change up the way we are thinking, because
Yeah.
it's easy to default to incorrect thinking. um
Yes, it is.
and I know for myself, I talk a lot about the first Hermetic Natural Law Principle of mentalism. I mean, that is so basic, right there. To change your reality, how do you change it? You change your
Yeah.
mind. Who's controlling your mind? The Matrix shit shows, your programming, or are you? Are
Yep.
you at the helm of yourself?
Yeah.
I like it.
Some great points right there. And then hell, one last thing is as I was, trying to develop, playtime, how this trickster, how energy, it made creating her relationships so much more easier. And
Yes.
I think that like that's where a lot of people struggle is in creating these health relationships. The trickster, that energy, that open energy, that caring energy can be what leads to you being able to create, some real
Yes.
health relationships, rather it be, health intimate, health spousal, or work relationships, you know,
Yeah.
and having that fluidity, how that fluidity is very hell important because it's like there's a time to be serious and there's a time to play,
Yes.
so being able to, to have that flow that equates to those, relationships. Because if you are that serious person, you will turn a lot of, how good relationship down. That's
Yeah.
something that I was doing is
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
not allow anybody to get close to me
Yeah.
because I lacked not only that concept of play and the trickster, but those emotions. I felt as though that would be exposing my, my vulnerable self to someone else. So why would I let anybody get that close to me?
Yeah.
So in having that trickster, being able to open, that's how we can start to create more betterful, meaningful, have relationships. Because as I'm doing this now, it's easier for me to connect with people. It's easier for me to relate with people. And it's easier for me to put myself in their shoes and have that heart-based health intelligence
I
and
love it.
to kind of care,
Yeah.
compared to how
Yeah.
where hell I was 10 years ago.
Wow, that is a beautiful thing. And that's happening because you are saying I am to the totality of who you are, your true divine self within. You are accepting yourself inside. And as you do that from within, so without. So,
Yes.
here we are. So, as you are accepting and expressing yourself from within, your outer reality and everybody that you encounter is going to be reflecting that divinity back to you. And that is, that's part of the magic of co-creating relationships and co-creating and materializing cooperating components and friendships, deep, meaningful friendships. I mean, being in contact and connected to you and connected to Derek, connecting to Leslie Powers, and, just so many, Amy Pierce and Jean Paul of Levolution. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm meeting and I'm connected to so many beautiful people who are, working the principles of natural law and living them and doing the great work, doing the shadow work, and having a clear vision and intention of things that are becoming of our divinity, that are direct reflections of our divinity. I mean, that's so cool. My guy, my funny guy, who just makes me laugh and he doesn't stop, so and it's
Yeah.
funny because we have this ongoing banter where, out of the blue, and I'm always, he's a trickster, so he's gonna joke, he's gonna do some kind of physical funny thing, and I'm just like, I'm waiting for it, and then I
Yeah.
relax and he gets me every time, fucking gets me, and
Yeah.
that's part of the, that's part of it for me. That's part of the universe romancing me every single day. Um,
Yeah.
you know, the conversation that we're having is part of my daily romancing for the day. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. And you
Yeah.
see these very aligned, congruent, heart-based relationships that are, they're fun. They're fun. They're loving. They're inspiring.
Yeah.
So I get it.
And we all need that,
Yes.
in life. They want you to feel as though you are truly held alone. So when you lack those true, meaningful relationships, when you lack those true, meaningful, conversations, then it's it really makes you think as though how you're suffering, because then you start to think, hey, I can't relate to anyone. Hey, I'll never, meet
Yeah.
anybody. Hey,
Yeah.
it's just me here. When in fact, there are a lot more people out there, who you can, relate with.
Yes.
It's just,
Yes.
we fall into that guilt, we fall into that shame, and then we fall into those negative emotions, and
Yeah.
then we let
Yeah.
that get the best of us.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, mantras, declarations that I run throughout the day is there are more people like me throughout the universe than I'll ever get to meet.
Yeah.
And I love that. There's something about that, when I'm starting to feel, sucked in because of some stupid matrix thing that I've witnessed, and I'm like, I think back to that and
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's right. And I'll be out doing a walk and I'll witness something, or someone will greet me. And, it's like instant materialization and instant reflection of that shift in my mindset. Really, really
That
powerful.
is,
And it's
yes, that
just
is
about
powerful.
instant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That is a mantra we all can start practicing
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
like
I
that one.
love it. I love it. I also like, my universe romances me. I really like that very, very, very much.
Yeah.
Because I like that sort of, I'm a girl, I like girly things, and I like things to
Yeah.
be, loving and beautiful and friendly and like flowy and easy, conflict and yelling and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, not,
Yeah.
it's not something that it's not something I want to cultivate. um and I know, and you probably have noticed this, where as you live more and more and more from your true center, your true north, your true being, saying I am to your divinity, you're going to notice that you will be more and more and more a very calming, loving factor out, waltzing in and out of the matrix. And
Yeah.
you probably have noticed that, where
Yes.
you
Yes.
can go into a room of great intensity and just be, it'll just be chill. And that takes practice to be able to, hold your alignment of your presence, your being, and to be, say like in Vegas, or say like, in one of the casinos, and roll in and out of that matrix scene and just be
Yeah.
entertained by it.
Yeah. That, and it takes self-discipline.
Yes.
Self-discipline is something that I practice. This came out as far as being a umpire.
Mhm.
You, you have to be disciplined out there.
Yeah.
You're gonna be called some names, you're gonna see some things, and you have to be disciplined because your ego can be tempted. Hell, I live in the South. In summertime, it gets extremely hot. Some days I'm calling games behind the plate in 100-degree weather. I've got on gear. Hell, when your emotional state is literally on the brink of collapse,
Yeah. Yeah.
you will respond a whole lot more different. So, do you have the discipline to still not do that? And mind you, sometimes I have not been, in full hell agreement,
Mhm.
at doing that, because
Yeah.
we all are human. We
Yeah.
all have our
Yeah.
boiling point. And then
Yeah.
two, you have to take the condition, you have to take your mental, mindset. It's a lot of things, that have to be taken into consideration. I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm using it as a means. Okay, I am aware of this, then I can work on that.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
next time comes, I know how I should
Yeah.
not behave. I
Yeah.
know how I should not,
Yeah.
react. So yes, in having that self-discipline, that's also key if you're talking about staying focused, staying centered,
Yeah.
because like you said earlier, there is so much out there that is going to try to distract you,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And once you fall for that, can you pull yourself held back,
Yeah.
held back to center
Exactly.
and
Can
having that
you
discipline?
can you wake yourself up? Stay
Yep.
present, stay awake in your center screen, during a very activated, shitstorm that's like happening in real time and going, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you, because that is what I mean by being able to waltz in and out of the matrix, is
Yeah.
to be able to, because what is the matrix? The matrix is the sort of unconscious field, the inversion of the true quantum field creation field universe. And we're either playing a role in the matrix, or we're being our true selves. And so what's waltzing in and out of the matrix is really our consciousness. And where is your consciousness? Who owns your focus? Do you, or does the matrix? So I hear you. And I know for me, there's certain things that are certain triggers, like when I see children being abused or being disrespected, or I see anything like that, I have to be aware, because that's one of my triggers. And I got to be very vigilant about who owns my attention. Does that own my attention, or do I own it? And am I implementing things through my consciousness, and through, through natural law? Am I doing that, or am I just being an asshole? So, and sometimes when I catch myself being an asshole, I have to just shut it. It's like, stop talking, just stop, regain consciousness, gotta wake myself up again, and go, oh shit, I was snoozing, because it's easy, like you said, it's easy to be distracted, because there's so many things pulling us.
Easy to fall asleep at the wheel in today's
all the
day and
time.
age, I know, but look, hell, that just makes us human. We're all going to make, mistakes. I think a lot of people think, hell, when we start talking about this stuff, we're talking about, perfection. That's not what we're talking about, because you're never going to get to, perfection. You're always going to make mistakes. Plus, too, if you was perfect, you wouldn't be learning anything.
That's true. That's
so.
true. And the awakening process, it's not a one-off event. New Age bullshit would have us believe that, but it's not. It's constant. Like, I'm snoozing all the time, and I catch myself all the time, and make the corrections. I'm getting better and better, and I fuck up plenty.
Yeah, we all do.
We all exactly do. And so and to have a good sense of humor about it, it's like, oops,
Oh yeah, hell, matter of fact, I call myself big head, and it's to keep the humility, and now you got to be able to laugh at yourself, man. I laugh at myself all the time, hell, when I'm making mistakes, and then plus two, hell, I'm tall, so I've hit my head on shit, I've hit my feet on shit, hit my arms on shit. Now it's like, now you just laugh at it, so in the physical aspect, but hell, when you are, coming upon some information, it's like, hey, I really believe that stupid shit, hell, back in the day, you just laugh at it. Because if you let it get to you, man, you would be sitting straight in the corner, just crying, just straight, you just straight hating yourself for all the time. You've got to have that release. You got to be able to have that laughter, and I think that was how that trickster archetype is going to come into play. Not just laughing, but being able to laugh at yourself, and being able to laugh, forget your mistakes, because that's how you can truly start to show a form of forgiveness, because you're not letting that emotional pressure weigh you down. You're not building up that baggage. You're letting it go.
So important to not go back to re-traumatizing ourselves, and going back and defaulting to the I am of the trauma. I am that trauma. I am that whatever, and get back into that sort of weaponized woundology that the matrix and a lot of the liberals want to like go on and on and on and on about, and it's like, stop it.
Play the whole victim mentality, because that's the cool thing nowadays, is everyone wants to say they're a victim. Everyone wants to say they've got, mental health problems. It just shows how weak things are getting, because
Yeah.
I've had to deal with this with family members, is everyone wants to play, oh, I have mental problems, but hey, I grew up with you and you didn't have no problems then, but you mysteriously now have mental problems.
Yeah.
Because people will try to find any way to get a one up. People will try to find any way
Yeah.
to get an advantage. So,
Isn't that
that's a whole nother
wacky?
topic.
Wacky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
The
know.
whole other,
A whole
it's a
nother topic.
whole other topic of,
Yeah.
reparations, like wacky,
Yeah.
wacky stuff.
That's, yeah. The feeling as though everybody owes me something.
Yes.
Everyone owes me something. But what have you really done for yourself? What have you truly, really done for yourself? Hell, again, it's always what can someone else do for me, but no, what are you doing for yourself? It all
Mhm.
comes back to right
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
looking in the damn mirror. And
Yeah.
that's what a
Yeah.
lot of people
That's
don't want to do.
important. Looking at the mirror. And that's,
Yeah.
and when it comes to like reality creation and also applying the Hermetic principles, it's like the world is you, the universe is you.
Yep.
Everything that's going on, it's like, and that was one of the things that what I found really annoying when I started applying this. It's like, oh shit, it's me.
Me,
This
yep.
is all me. I'm doing this shit.
Yep.
And
One
so
of the most
I just
powerful
start
things you can realize
laughing.
too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just start laughing when I'm like, yeah, I know. I did it. I did it.
Yeah.
And to be able to root out the flawed thinking, the flawed beliefs, the flawed applications, and to be, humble about it without being an asshole about it to
Yeah.
yourself, or being ruthless, and ruthlessness has, it has a place, but not all the time.
Yeah.
The matrix is ruthless enough. We don't need to do that to ourselves,
Yeah.
so
To the point to where you're not like causing physical, harm, to
yeah,
yourself because you did something wrong, and you start cutting yourself. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's not what we're talking about.
yeah, yeah,
That's going into the, how extreme polarities. And that's what you see a lot of people doing.
yeah,
That's what I did as far as the whole ignoring emotions,
yeah,
just completely cut myself off from them, you know.
yeah,
But it was in this realization, people have to become more aware, in these talks, these presentations, these online conferences. That's how we can get more and more people to realize this stuff, because until they really, really want to change themselves, you can't really change anyone else. And
no,
that's the hard
no,
part about it. It is, you cannot really change anyone else. This individual has to be willing to change themselves,
yeah,
because you can give them all the videos, you can give them all the information, you can give them all the knowledge in the universe to change themselves. If they
yeah,
don't even care to change
yep.
or
It's
take
not
those
gonna
first
happen.
steps, yep, it ain't gonna happen.
It's
It's
not
not
gonna
gonna happen.
happen. Yeah.
So,
It's an inside job, and it is,
yep,
and we can't create in anybody else's reality,
yep,
That was an annoying thing to realize for me. It's like, what do you mean? No.
yeah,
But then, when you raise children, you realize, well, shit, man, they are their own people. They're their own
yeah,
people. You can think that you can control their
yeah,
outcome and what they do, but you can't. And that was one of the really intense things that I think I took away from having stepchildren is, we read the Kabbalion together. And
mm,
so they had got a really great foundation, and we had fun with it because they're like, they'd roll their eyes and go, oh, okay, mom, sure, whatever. But then when they started playing with the principles, especially
yeah,
the first one, that whole mentalism thing of being able to be in charge of your mind and to have a good relationship with how you think and thinking correctly, it was a game changer for them. you know,
Yeah.
because they were able to wield their reality, and things changed very, very quickly, almost
Yeah.
miraculously, um, because it is all you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I've always said, those principles not only exist in all things, but they exist internal to you.
Yeah.
Hell, when I came, when I finally discovered what that first principle was all, hell about, it was very empowering because I'm like, oh man, you mean I can be the one to actually change, how my reality, I'm the one who's flying this,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm the one who's driving this.
Yeah.
It was a huge game changer for me, a huge
Isn't
game
it
changer.
exhilarating? Like, just you
Yeah,
saying that, I just feel,
yeah,
I'm all bubbly. It's like, wow,
yep,
it's
because
so
that's how
cool
I
because,
was.
and
Yeah,
we all have access to that, and it's powerful.
yeah,
It's
it is
really,
powerful,
really
man.
powerful.
you know but it all comes down to choice. It
Mhm.
all comes down to
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
And just like hell, I can blame anybody, for my problems, trauma, parents, stuff like that. Really, I only blame myself. I only blame myself. Yes, did my parents have some, some implementation on why it was happening? Yes, but because I let it happen to me, and I continue to let it happen, and I bought into the mind control, I made the choice to say, hey, I'm going to try to end this cycle. Hey, I'm going to be the one, to take in this information. I'm going to be the one to change my reality by starting off with my thoughts, by
Yes.
changing and purging the information that comes within my being, you know?
Powerful. Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? Well, we have been at it for over an hour and a half.
Yes.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom, my love?
Um, I want to keep stressing this, man, because I'm seeing too many people go to like the short term, like TikTok style videos. People have to really be willing to engage in doing the work upon themselves. It is
Great.
not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen over 1 year. It's not going to happen over 5 years. It's not going to happen over 10 years. It is a lifelong progression. You literally have to be willing to sacrifice and be that hermit, and constantly be willing to change your worldview and change your beliefs, and be willing to admit that you are wrong. People really have to be willing to make that sacrifice. And that's really what I want people to understand, because a lot of people talk about doing shadow work, but they really aren't doing it. And they have this illusion as though they are doing it, when in fact they are not, because
Mhm.
they think that they're going to, you know, he'll watch a few videos, and then, just because you watch videos on shadow work doesn't mean you're actually doing the work.
It's
So
true. So true.
people have to be really willing to invest and create the time, man. Create that time, find it. It can be done. You have to be willing to sacrifice, and that's what I want people to really understand. Is there are requirements there really are things that you will have to sacrifice,
Yeah.
but when you start doing it, you will see the benefits. So that's what I really want people to take away, is be willing to do the work.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for your time, for your presence, for your journey, and for sharing all of what you are at this point and more and beyond. And so we'll have all of Brandon's information in the show notes below, my loves. And so thank you, thank you, thank you all for joining us. This was a beautiful conversation. And yes, kids, the
Yes.
great work. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's a good time to start, like right now. And I'll have some information on the Kabbalion also in the show notes below. And until next time, here's to love, truth, and beauty. Mwah!
Peace out.